Hello world. I am your girl, Absolutely Adia.
And who are you?
Christopher Petrie. You're known as Petrie, though. You can call me Petrie. That's what everybody call me.
And this is the franchise. I'm in the building. And we are joined by a very, very special guest, a great friend of mine. Her official name is Gloria Johnson, but I know her by Free Me. Welcome to the quad.
Thank you guys very much for having me.
Yes,
I appreciate
thank you
all.
for
really
joining the
this.
quad today.
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
We're excited to have you, Free Me. You mind if I call you that for the rest of the show?
Sure, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Excellent, Free Me. Well, Free Me joins us. She is a very, very special person and doing a lot of great things in the community, and we wanted to speak with her because, you know, this is a community podcast. This is your podcast, and this individual here is somebody that you need to know, and you need to know everything that she's doing. So, Free Me.
What's up, man?
Tell the people who you are.
Well, I don't know where to start. I'm kind of shy when you throw me on, you just throw me out there like that. But nevertheless, I'm a lot of things. I'm a lot of things. More than anything, I am a true community activist for a plethora of things. Anything from the elderly to the new millennials. You know, I work with anything from HIV, AIDS, human trafficking, domestic violence, sickle cell anemia disease, and right now I'm really into freedom of speech. So that's really what I'm pushing right now is giving people
First Amendment.
Yes, giving people that quality gold of the law, that we have the freedom to speak.
Right.
So that's what I'm really pushing and trying to promote right now.
Awesome. Yeah. Now I noticed that just by knowing you and all the things that you're into, I did notice that it because some people have a specialty, they specialize in this, so, but for you, you have the young millennials, you have the older, population. So I was reading about your Speak Sister Speak initiative from earlier in the 2000s. So tell us about that.
Speak Sister Speak was something that I actually started in 2005, and it was a youth girls organization is how it started out. And basically it was an organization for young girls like these girls that are here right now, basically helping them to find their way at this age, because we live in such a fast-paced world, even starting back in 2005. Young girls, they would say, oh, I want to be ABC, XYZ. Well, expose them to that. Some of them, some young girls they've never been exposed to what they want to be. And so what Speak Sister Speak was about was finding exactly what it is you want to be, teaching young girls to write journals. Everyone that came in, they got a journal. That was a requirement that they had to do, was write in this journal.
Yeah.
I was also tied in. I had parents' permission. I was tied into their education at their schools. If they got in trouble at school, it doesn't matter if it was PE or, home ec.
That's kind of somewhat I do.
You're still taking girls on because my girls need.
I'll take them.
After.
I'll take them.
If Nicole was here,
I need somebody to assist.
If our other host was here, she would most definitely have a
she is a similar nonprofit program with
that's awesome.
With young girls.
She would have been
that's
an elaborate
awesome.
conversation.
It's never too much.
Nah.
So what challenges? What were your biggest challenges working with the young girls?
Getting their parents to get them there.
Really?
Yes. The young girls were starving to be there because it gave them an opportunity to be able to see what other young girls were wanting, and if their dreams was like my dreams. My biggest obstacle was parents not getting their kids there, not having time, or whenever they did come, it was late. And one of the requirements was when you first start, the parents had to attend the first one, just to see what type of program that it was. And that was one of my biggest issues, was getting the girls there. It got to a point where I actually had a friend of mine who joined in with me, and he would go by and pick the girls up and bring them, especially the ones who parents just, it was like, Miss Johnson, we don't have a ride, So that was really the biggest obstacle, getting them there. But when they got there,
it was all over.
It was
all over.
Yeah. And I completely understand where you're coming from on that end, because the organization that I work for, it's hard to get the guys, but I don't know if this may work. We actually just rented a bus
Mm-hmm.
to get them, or we pay for their taxis and stuff like that, or Uber or Lyft. So I don't know if you want to implement that. That'll most definitely work. But you, as far as, because I did peep out everything that you do as far as with the sisters, I mean the Speak Sisters. I'm sorry,
Speak Sisters
Speak. Yeah. But what are the things that you do to most definitely improve on that? Because I would like to, know more knowledge of, because I'm still new into the game of being a mentor and stuff like that. I want to know what things have you improved on, getting more of the sisters out there, or even just finding new things for them to do.
Well, the one thing that I improved, I will tell you, the one thing that we have to improve daily dealing with these young individuals is listen.
Okay.
We cannot talk over what they are telling us. We have to be able to meet them right there in the middle. And one of the things that I can definitely say that I have improved is I have, just to share a brief story, I had a friend of mine who actually worked for American Airlines, and he was one of the individuals that detailed the plane. And I had a young girl who her whole dream, she was 17, her whole dream, she wanted to be a pilot. That's all she ever wanted to do. So I took a group of girls who wanted to be pilots or whatnot ever, and I was able to take them to the cockpit and be able to tour the plane. Well, when she got there, when we left, she told me, she said, Miss Johnson, she said, I don't want to be a pilot no more. And I said, well, I was like, why?
Right.
She said, She said, I don't want to fly the plane. She said, I want to go to school to be an engineer because I want to know how the plane flies. She said, when I saw all those little numbers, she's like, she was like, I want to know how that works. And she was like, and I was talking to that guy, and he was like, well, our engineers are the ones that, master this part of the plane. And she was like,
Yeah, because they just flying on
I don't want to. But
that's where the money is right there, to be honest with you. Engineering, that's where the money is.
Exactly. But, had she never been exposed to that, she would eventually went to school to be a pilot and find out that's not something I want to be, and that's a lot of the problems we have is these young individuals and older, they've never been exposed to their dreams. And once you expose them to what they say they want, they realize this is not really something that I want to do.
Yeah. That's something I tell people all the time. My mom was very big on exposure. She grew up very poor in the project with 5 brothers and sisters. And, they weren't exposed to much. I remember her saying their neighborhood, for years, they did everything in their community. They shopped, they went to church, they went to school, like their family. They had family in Mississippi, but for the most part, everything was there. And when you think about that, just being from New Orleans, that was the culture shock for so many people after Hurricane Katrina, because generations of people had never been outside of New Orleans. Wow. So for the first time, entire families that were displaced got to see how people live in other places and how much better, or, and how many more opportunities and things like that. And that's something that my mom, even as a single parent, always was big on. Culture, arts, museums, restaurants, just any music. She listened to everything. She always made sure she exposed me to as much as possible. And that gave me the comfortability, but to be able to figure out what I liked and what I wanted to do based on just being able to soak up so many things. I always tell people that's the biggest thing that separates us from the wealthy, because they're exposed to everything. And that's one of the reasons why I was an entrepreneur for 8 years. My oldest daughter, I worked with music artists. She had been in the studio with me from a little baby. And she was listening to a song with my mom one day. My mom called me. She said, I don't know what she's talking about. We were listening to this song, and she said, I'm just waiting on the beat to drop. I said, oh, she's been in the studio too long. But that, to me, is great, because I think when you start exposing them from little, she's been able to see so many things put together, like from concept to, finalization. And I think for our kids, clothing lines, fashion shows, events, concerts, music, films, videos, exposing them to as much as possible. I ran a magazine, and they do things like, I saw them sketching out sketches and swimsuits and clothing. That's so powerful for me, because when I went to college, I went to art school. And I thought I was exposed, and then I got there, and kids were designing all this amazing stuff, and I was just like, I gotta get out more.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you don't.
Right.
It's never too much.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you can never have enough exposure. So I definitely think that that's something awesome that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
No
Yeah,
question.
it is. It is. And like you were saying, you know, even with my parents, my mother was an educator, as well as she was a minister. She was a singer. She traveled all over the world, you know, and she never wanted us to be confined
Mm-hmm.
to where we were.
Mm-hmm.
She used to always say, push yourself harder. You know, push yourself harder. When you come upon something that's challenging to you, don't go ask somebody. Try to figure it out yourself first.
And
You
then
know,
ask questions.
and then ask
Ask questions,
questions. You know, you have to, and you know, that's the thing with these kids today. Everything starts in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your decisions, what you want out of life, everything starts in the mind. But if your mind is confined
Right.
to where you are, then that's as big as you'll ever be. You know, so yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with that, because I know even for me as a grown man in a job, I thought I wanted a job, and then I got the job. I was able to kind of do a dry run at the job. You know what I mean? A dress rehearsal, so to speak. And once I got in the job, I was like, oh, this is not what I want to do. But if had I not been exposed, I would have never known. You know?
Right.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Freeman. I think we're gonna change gears a little bit. Some of your, I noticed that there's a little bit of a pattern in the health field. Yeah, there's a little bit of pattern in the health field, especially with some of our older population with the dementia and the Alzheimer's.
Yes.
I always, you know what I used to call that when I was a kid? Old timers disease. Yeah, that's the only time but I was like, oh, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, could you speak to us a little bit about just your passion for the health field?
Absolutely. My passion for the health field is over. Oh my gosh. Dementia and Alzheimer's is something that's very dear to me. HIV/AIDS is something that's dear to me. Sickle cell is very personal to me. You have some things that are dear to you that you get in the community and you fight to educate people about. And then you have things that are personal to you. There's not a choice that you have. You have to get in the community. And sickle cell is one of those things I don't have a choice, because I experience it. It's personal. I live with it every day. I see it, I see it coming and going. Alzheimer's and dementia is something that goes uneducated. People don't know the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia. They think it's the same. It is not. They don't understand that there's 47 different types of dementia.
Oh,
right.
They don't understand that the dementia is the memory disease. Alzheimer's causes dementia. So when you start breaking down and educating people, it's amazing how us and young people, because people, we have to get past that stigma that, oh, it only happens to black people, or, oh, it only happens to old people. No, I'm dealing with a case right now of a lady with frontal temporal lobe dementia, and she's 42. So it happens. It happens. And the healthcare, HIV right now is something that I've become very tender about, because it's very, it's hit Dallas like a man. It's just like someone just took this disease and just opened up the curtains of Dallas and dropped it in there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I was talking to a young lady, and she's HIV. She was diagnosed with HIV, and one of the things she was telling me is, she said, I never got an opportunity to get outside of, South Dallas. And she said, here it is, I've contracted this disease and I'm stuck with it.
Right.
So it's like everything that you experience in your life, it's always going to affect you mentally. That's a mental thing.
Right.
That's what I was telling her. That's mental. You got, you can leave South Dallas anytime you want to, but you got to make up your mind that's what you want.
Right.
So I'm always pushing for things in the health field, because things are constantly changing. Different types of diseases are coming out. There are so many things that we need to keep people educated about. Keep driving the community, keep pushing in the community about HIV. It's sad that I go into the schools and I'm able to speak about the disease, but I'm not able to provide any information about it. Meaning I can talk about HIV, but I can't give out condoms.
Oh, wow.
Got it.
I can talk about what
and that's a restriction from the schools?
That's the restriction. We are not allowed to give.
Yeah.
You cannot give out anything.
Because that's like promoting the behavior. Got it.
So, it's one of those things where, I'm passionate about it. So when I talk about things, I talk about it with passion because I've seen so many people come and go, with the disease and that saying we perish for the lack of knowledge.
No question.
That's fact. So
wow.
That's fact. So
as far as the diseases that you're more prominent with, my question is does it have to deal with the nutrition and health as growing up in the neighborhoods, or is it prominent as far as like, it's just a genetic undertone or something like that?
It's neither.
Neither.
Now there is a test that you can take now, and you can take, and it tests a certain cell that you have within your blood, and it will tell you if you have this certain type of this genetic cell, then it will 9 times out of 10 you are a carrier of some type of basically Alzheimer's, because dementia can happen from depression.
Really?
Depression causes dementia. What's another thing that people doesn't think?
I ain't never thought about
vitamin D deficiency causes dementia, because these are the things that affect the mental plates of the mind, of the brain.
We gotta talk.
Alzheimer's, HIV/AIDS. HIV, it causes dementia. You have diabetes causes dementia, cancer, CHF, Parkinson's, PICS, Huntington disease. You have all of these diseases that causes dementia. And then you have depression. You have lack of vitamin D. You have what's another one? I'm trying to think of one that doesn't fall like into a big.
I didn't even know about the vitamin D. I have vitamin D deficiency, so I be playing with my medication, and now you just
it's not a game.
I was like,
it's not a game.
Get it.
Because vitamin D is one of the vitamins that affect the frontal lobe of the brain, which basically causes us. The frontal lobe is what causes us to have. We make all our decisions.
Right.
Okay. That vitamin D helps. It's a part of it. It's almost like pouring acid on a battery.
Got it.
It eats away the plaque. It helps with nutrition. I mean, it's just all of these things you'd be amazed with. And like you were saying.
Could we get that mostly from foods, though? Because I'm more of like a natural eater. I don't really do vitamins.
Well, the funny thing is, I became deficient when I moved here because African get a lot of my vitamin D from the sun. And being in New Orleans and being outside so much more, I think it just never was an issue. And then when I moved here and working, I guess, in corporate America and just not being outside as much, I was surprised when I was sufficiently deficient.
They put you on like 50,000.
Yeah, and it kind of freaked me out. But then I physically I could feel the difference. But it's not something that we're taught growing up, especially because we don't drink cow milk. That was always like, oh, you get vitamin D and stuff. But it was never something that was really that serious. And I remember when the doctor told me, I called my mom and I was like, so what's the big deal about vitamin D? And I started Googling and learning, but I'm still learning. So much more stuff.
And, to answer your question, you can eat a very healthy life, because like I said, a lot of my patients and a lot of the, cases that I had in the past, you had people that were engineers, multitasking, boom. Multitasking is something else too.
For real?
That can lead to dementia.
What? I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Multitasking.
Switch it up.
Your brain.
It's because when you multitask, you have to realize when you're multitasking something and you go to give your mind a rest, your mind actually never rests because it's always calculating. If you're dealing with one or two things at one time, you have the right and the left side of the brain, and then you have the hippocampus of the brain, which basically stores all information.
Right.
When you stop that hippocampus of your brain is still trying to categorize
we talked about that
information.
a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and so your mind never stops actually trying to work this project over here, even though you physically are working this over here. Your mind is still operating with this project you just gave it.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
then when you get back to
real.
this project, and then you think, oh, well, man, I need to take a break. Even when you take a break, your mind is still reminding you of what you have put in it, so it never stops. So that's why they always say, do one task one at a time.
Damn.
Because no matter, I've had patients.
We all got to make changes.
Yeah, we got to do better.
Damn.
We got to do better.
Yeah.
I
So
feel
that's
so bad right now.
Yeah,
Lord,
yeah.
good Lord.
And that's why they say that, a person who has any form of dementia, it comes with behavior issues. But Alzheimer's, which is the overall, the memory, but dementia is the overall, memory disease. It can never really be 100% diagnosed except for on an autopsy.
Oh, wow.
Other than that, they can say, you can look at a scan and you can see the plaque buildup or whatever, and you can pretty much determine what types of dementia it may have. But Alzheimer's is something that it cannot be diagnosed with 100% until upon death.
Until it's over with.
So it's basically you're living. We're truly that sheep that's accounted for the slaughter, because we really don't know what the slaughter is going to be into the end.
To the end.
Right.
Wow. So much good stuff, you
That's
guys.
great
Yeah.
stuff.
I'm so excited. There's so much more to get into. So we'll be right back with lots more good stuff.
Absolutely.
With Miss Free Me. Thank you so much. Stay tuned in to The Quad.
We back in the building. We done paid some bills.
Back in the building.
We got Free Me is in the building. We had
hey.
Gloria the first half, and now we got Free Me here. Yeah, free. You got
Here
to
for the alter ego.
Yeah,
Yes, I
I'm
love
all
it.
about alter egos. That's why I'm the franchise. But in this segment of the episode, we're gonna get into a little bit more about your Freedom Speaks and some of your gifts that you've been blessed with. Right, but I know that I wanted to talk a little bit about the Freedom Speaks and just, is that connected to the conversation piece?
Freedom Speak is the conversation piece.
That is that. Okay, talk to us about that conversation piece.
Back in 2016, I was hosting an event, and it was called Dallas Arts in Motion, and it was geared toward domestic violence and human trafficking. And during the intermission, when several young people would come up to me, and I mean, when you say several, you mean like maybe 10, maybe 12, and they were just like, we want to share our story. I was in a bad domestic situation, and I had one young lady to tell me that, she's living from house to house because wherever she goes, this guy she used to date from Houston, he finds her. And, I didn't know what to tell them, because it was not that type of event. It was not the type of event where you could express the things that you were experiencing or had experienced in your life. And when I left that event, I remember a gentleman, he came up to me. He said, man, no one wants to hear us. Y'all want to produce, y'all want to get out and y'all want to promote, and support domestic violence and human trafficking. He said, my mother, trafficked me, she sold me into trafficking. He said, but nobody wants to hear my story, but y'all supporting what I've been through.
Right.
And that hurt me so bad, because I could, even right now I get emotional because I could feel this young man, and it was at that point I said, I got to do something. So I started Freedom Speak Conversation Piece. And Freedom Speak Conversation Piece, it's an open dialogue. It's an open dialogue for individuals to come out and get on the mic. You've been there.
Right, I have.
And speak their piece.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to talk about. If you just want to get up and you want to vent, if you want to get up and you want to talk about what you feel is going on, is right or wrong, you want to talk whatever it is you want to talk about. When you're on the mic, you own it.
Right. So do you pick certain themes already, or certain topics, or is it basically really like just an open dialogue?
It is a 150% open dialogue. Now, I do have like a topic. I may start off with a topic. My last one was millennials, and that's my topic, once I put the topic out there and other people's want to engage in a conversation about it, and once it's over with, boom, you go, it's open. I mean, you have the freedom.
Right.
The last event I had a young guy at the end of the show. He came up to me and he said, "Miss Free," he said, man, he said, "I enjoyed myself, man." He's like, "This was nice." He's like, "I'll be back. I'm gonna tell my friends about it. I'm gonna come back." He said, "But your conversation piece," he said, "I noticed it online and I wanted to call and tell you." He said, "You got pieces like, PIE, it's supposed to be PEA, like peace." And I said, "No." I said, "It's peace." And he's like, "No, Miss Free, it's supposed to be conversation peace, And I said, "No." What I said, "Did you get anything from the conversation?" I said, "From freedom speak." He said, "Yeah." He was like, "Man, I just feel lifted." I said, "Then you came
right
with nothing, but someone gave you a piece of something."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "They didn't give you a piece. They gave you a piece of information. They gave you a piece of their story." I said, "So that's what conversation peace comes from. I'm giving you something."
Right.
And he was like, "Oh, I got it. So, it's all about
conversation piece.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, as far as the freedom of speech, now, could we touch on the intellect with the human trafficking with Kendrick Johnson? I know that, I don't know if that was a real big thing that you may want to talk about, touch on. Can we touch on that? How would you feel about with that situation? Do you remember that situation that happened back in 2013 with Kendrick Johnson, his organs?
Where they basically gutted him open and sold his organs.
Does that play into human trafficking?
That does play into human trafficking because he was missing for so long.
Right. He was wrapped up in the gym and stuff like that. Yeah.
The situation with that, there are so many cases like that. There are so many.
That's like the reason for human trafficking. Right?
No. That's
not.
The human trafficking has been going on since Jesus, forever.
Yeah.
His story brought it's like sitting in a room where you see stars in the ceiling, but if you look away from the stars in the ceiling, the room is just dark. Yeah. Basically what he did was he put the light in the room that this is really happening to young kids, that individuals are really being kidnapped. Do you remember when you used to go into Walmart and see all the pictures of kids that were missing? You don't see that anymore, do you?
No.
You know why? Because they took it down because that was a good shopping tool for human traffickers. They came in there and they were looking for those kids just like we were.
Oh.
Okay? They would go in Walmarts and pick out kids and see where they were missing from and how long they've been missing. The human traffickers were looking for them just like we were. And 90% of those kids on milk cartons were never found.
Right.
90% of those kids that you seen in Walmart, you seen that they had been missing since 1989, and here it is 1999.
They got those progressions.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you don't see that anymore. You don't see those kids, just kids' pictures, tons of, you don't see that anymore. One of his situation, a young lady by the name of Tanya Stafford. I don't know if you've heard about her, but I worked, she was human trafficked. She was sold into human trafficking when she was 9 by her mother. And she didn't get out of being human trafficked until she was almost 20. Well, the day that she was going to court, the man that had basically owned her, he got off. Never served a day in jail. Wow. Know why?
Because he was white?
No, because the statutory time had ran out.
Yeah.
They couldn't judge it.
Yes.
The statute.
Wow.
So that situation with that young man, he is one of thousands that has happened to.
Right.
It used to be a time where they had certain ages where young men and young women were being kidnapped. But now there's men and women of all ages because they're selling them into other countries for labor. It's no longer just about sex drives anymore. Sex,
Can I touch on that? I'm sorry,
absolutely.
Jakina Turner, I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, that situation where the young girl, she was 13, she ran away from home from Dallas. She's from Dallas, from Saddle Cliff, and she went to Houston. And they found her, and she gave a fake name. And they said back in 2012. Yeah, 2012. She gave a fake name, and the government or ICE took her the name that came back was for somebody that was in Colombia, right? So they took her and brought her to Colombia, and she had to work these houses and stuff like that, and work and like kind of be a slave. Like, I don't know if you want to touch on that, or do you remember that story?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I remember the story, but if I touched on it, what I'd be saying would be of my own information. And I'm just gonna be real with you. I know of the story, but not enough to elaborate on it.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but just asking everyone here, from myself to you, because like I said, I see a lot of people that know a lot of information, but I don't see them in the community. I went to a church event not 2 weeks ago, and the same people that I see, they're just like us. We know a lot, and we have the ability to teach a lot. But I don't see you in the community where a lot of the issues is going on with human trafficking, because the type of human trafficking that we think of as old people being the situations like you're reading off to me about the young lady that gave, what was her name again?
Jakina.
And the young
Turner.
man Ken and
Kendrick Johnson.
You have to realize those are great stories, and it saddens everything.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is there's so many other levels of human trafficking. Like your next door neighbor could be human trafficking kids and you don't even know it.
Right.
Your next door neighbor, you could be outside playing basketball with the young man or playing dolls with the young lady who's being trafficked. But because they're so brainwashed with fear, they don't tell you. They live normal lives. You could be sitting in a classroom with someone who's being trafficked. Then you be like, what happened to my friend Katie? Oh, they moved. Her dad got a new job.
Yeah. I was trying to explain that to my daughter. She had a friend that was living in a budget suite. And we dropped the girl off one day. I picked her up from after school. They were in this after school program, and the kids ran up. And can you give us a ride? I'm like, where y'all live? So she wasn't that far from us. And so we dropped the girl off, and she was sweet girl. And when we dropped off, I said, who she live here with? Because this is not, oh yeah, it's apartments. Because I was joking with the girl. I was like, you don't live here. She said, yeah, we live here. And when we pulled, I was telling her, like, this is not apartments. Like, you can't live here, But it's thing, kids don't know. They don't know the difference, when you're growing up. But it's just a lot of you see that. And which I know the new term is helicopter mom, but I'm very overprotective of my girls just because I think that you have to be. And the scarier part to me is, especially having a teenager now, interacting with other parents that are not. And she's had friends. One of her friends asked to go with us to the state fair because, they get the free tickets to the fair. I never spoke to that girl's parents. They had her, sent her with her ticket, and they never met me, and you don't know.
And that's a sad thing.
Yeah, for your daughter, growing up, it was always that stereotype. The boys are they let them go, but the girls, they need to know the who, what, when, where, why.
Right.
And that's something I tell her all the time. And I think when she first started, like middle school, that was the abrasive point, because she'd always come back. Can I go to I'm like, who's going? Where are their parents? Where you know them from? Like, what? I need phone numbers. I need addresses, But it's so many.
Right.
Yeah, I'm real.
Everything.
She just went. I know I'm embarrassing her, but for the first time, she went over to one of her friends' houses here, and the girl's mom messaged me and everything, and she said, "Oh, they're gonna cook dinner. I have a little fresh kit or something." And I said, "Okay, well that's fine. She doesn't really go anywhere, but I'll let her come over." And then she texted me back and she said, "Oh, well, she could spend the night." I said, "Oh no,
come on back.
I'm just meeting y'all. We ain't doing all that,
right?" Right.
But no, but to your point, it's so many parents that you don't see that. They don't know what's going on. They have so much on their minds and plates and working multiple jobs, and it's just
and it's just, we sleep on it. Because not just as parents, but as a parent, as a sister, as a friend, we don't ask questions.
Right.
It is our responsibility to ask questions. Baby, where are you from?
Mm-hmm.
Baby, where are your parents from?
Mm-hmm.
Where does your father work? Where does your mom work? Oh, okay. How long y'all been living here?
Right.
Because you have to put those, if children that are trafficked, okay, and they're in schools, because they register them in school too.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask a child so many questions, after a while, you're going to get the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You may not get the truth verbally, but you'll get it either in their body language. You're going to get it in some type of eye contact. They're going to start crying.
Right.
They're either going to become angry or distant. I need to call my mommy. I need to call my daddy. We don't make it our responsibility to be responsible for people anymore. And that's one of the things that you find, just like you have a lot of people that's been human trafficked for so long. When they do get out, they go back.
Because that's what they know.
Because that's all they know. So
what do you recommend for a kid like my daughter that might meet somebody that is in a situation and they want to get out or need to get out or express the feeling of what steps do you take?
Your daughter needs to know every number outside of 911 that's an emergency contact. She needs to know that 911 is not the only way to get help. In fact, 911 may slow down the help because 911 has to get a call to the call that you need to get to. And sometimes they're going to dispatch you to whatever area they feel you need to go to. If you have a friend that you're concerned about that's in a domestic violence situation, you need to take your child's phone and put it at domestic violence 1-800, suicide hotline 1-800, Dallas PD 1-800. Put it in their cell phones.
Okay.
To where when that child says, I'm getting beat at home, I'm being molested at home, blah, 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 you say, hold on, girl. But cool, I'm going to text you this number, but this is just for you. And this is for domestic violence. You know what domestic violence is? No. Okay, let me tell you what domestic violence is. Our kids need to know more than just 911. They need to know that there are agencies out there that will call, that you don't have to call and give your name, just give your location and say, this is where it's happening. Can you pick me up? Somebody's coming.
Those things that you teach to the girls that you work with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a friend of mine. I'm going to promote her, Miss Elsie Allen. She is a retired FBI, and she would give all types of education self-defense classes. And that's one of the things she would always say is don't just be so quick to call 911 because 911 is guaranteed, but sometimes they don't answer.
Right.
So you need to have a backup plan.
Right.
And the backup plan is you need to have another number of someone that can get you, you need to call the police department directly yourself. And all you have to do, find that number. Everything's voice dial now, voice dialing.
Right.
Right.
So,
Siri
there's,
Siri.
and you go straight to it, boom. And that's, we have to teach them that, oh, I called 911 and they recorded my calls. Oh, I wish you just would have called the police station straight through. They put me on hold. 911 put me on hold. In the middle of a domestic violence situation, they put me on hold and then transferred me to the police department. That's 60 seconds. That's a minute gone. A minute and 10 seconds gone. Where you could be already talking to somebody.
Right.
So we have to educate them past what we've always been taught. That's just like we've been taught, use a condom.
Right.
People still dying from HIV.
Right.
Call 911. Person still got killed from domestic violence. Everything, you need in between those delays, you have to have a second. You have to have a second avenue.
Now, with I'm glad you brought up the HIV topic. One of the things that we have been discussing, I work in a pharmacy, is pharmacy tech.
Okay.
And in Dallas, and like you were saying earlier, it's just so out of control. But PrEP was a big issue and a hot button topic, and I posted it on social media a few months ago. And my question that I posed was, should men be encouraged, single men, to take PrEP the way that women were always encouraged to take birth control? Like, should that be their primary responsibility. And how do you feel about it? Because working in the pharmacy, you know, it's majority homosexual couples that come in to take PrEP, and usually the partner is already HIV positive.
Right.
And if you don't know, PrEP is the medication that you can take to prevent contraction of HIV. And they promote it for everybody, just single people that are having sex. So it's not.
I think for me, they don't promote it enough. It's not talked about enough, because when you go to communities event, and I'm a inner city.
Should we rely on that though?
I mean,
I think the education would be more effective than just medicine.
But you can.
Medicine's important too,
the
though.
medicine is important, but the education is good too.
I mean, because not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but I mean, I've seen situations where people do get cured from AIDS and HIV by just, you know, eating healthy too.
That's
though.
a slippery slope.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen articles and read stuff about that because I have a friend that actually
like Dr. CB, like what?
Well, no, not that, not him. No, but I have seen all the other articles where other doctors have done that, and I have a witness of a friend that had HIV, and she's been battling it for like 18 years, and she got rid of it.
You have the CB4.
Dove off
the CB4 is,
yeah, dove off the deep end.
I'm really.
The CB, if you're, you know, like I said,
I'm not touching that one.
Yeah, I'm not gonna touch that one. All I can say is whoa.
Right.
Whoa.
Right.
Okay, if you say it, hey, I'm like this. I take everybody at their word.
Right.
I mean, I don't go against nothing. I mean,
I like to get deep into it, you know, like, because I mean,
I think with PrEP, like I was with and the only reason why I'm coming back to that is because, like I said, I do a lot of events in the inner city, South Dallas, you know, places, Stop 6. When you go to those places, you don't hear them. When you bring up the word PrEP, they're like, "We ain't never heard about PrEP." You know, what is PrEP? You know, but
really,
but go to Allen, Texas.
Seriously? Never heard of it.
Yeah,
you know, North Richland Hills.
Right.
Go
baby.
to. Oh yeah,
it's popping.
I mean.
That's the number one.
But the first time I
seller.
actually heard of PrEP was last year. I went to a seminar that they was having at the Omni over in, I think it was the Omni Plano. And I was just like, wow. It was packed out with people, mainly, you know, gay couples, that they didn't know about it.
Really?
They did not know about it. And some of them said they knew, but they didn't understand the
how it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first started working in the pharmacy, there's a section pharmacies are very crazy. I didn't know what to expect. I'm kind of like Forrest Gump. I have an idea to do something and I figure out how to do it.
Yeah, that would be me too.
And there's a section right in the middle because the pharmacy kind of works in a circle. And these are all of the medications, like the most popular medications that are going out very fast. And in the metro, I guess, hotspots of Dallas, that's the number one of the number one medications. That
PrEP?
Is going out into the community. It's crazy.
Dallas is the numbers in Dallas, I always say you can never quote them because they're changing
constantly.
It's so frightening when you know of a zip code where individuals over the age of 50 is being diagnosed with HIV.
What?
They're trying, and African American women, they're trying to trigger it back to the blue pill. But the reality of it is older women are starting to sleep with younger men.
Yep.
Yeah. Cougars.
Well, speaking of the zip code thing, I go, which I was just not up on current information, and you go and get AIDS tested, and I moved here about 2.5 years ago, and I heard it on the radio. They were doing the testing, so I went, to go and take the test, and I was in the line, and the lady that was there, shout out to Lisa, was really, really informative, and she was like, I just kept asking her questions, and she was like, are you nervous? I'm like, yeah, every time you take a test, you think of all these people, and she's like, when's the last time have you ever been tested? I was like, yeah, I get tested every year. She's like, well, have you been having unprotected sex? I was like, no, I actually haven't been having any. She's like, so what are you worried about? I was like, because, it can go. She's like, no, that's not. But that was something that we were
That's
taught.
old school.
Yeah, that's old school thinking
English,
that every time you get tested that it could come back if from something 20 years ago or 10 years ago, and that's so right that you don't
like on a credit
and that's
score.
So that's not true. But I didn't know that, and
Right.
so she educated me so much. But we were at a Walgreens, and I had to drive to another neighborhood, and I was like, I passed like 3 Walgreens to get here. Like, why are y'all? Actually, I went to 2 that were the wrong one, and when I finally got there, I said, why aren't y'all at the other ones? And she said, oh, this zip code
fire
is this area is just so out of control, so we're focusing our education and resources just in these zip codes where it's so bad that they want to try to educate people as much as possible.
And then they don't, and even when you go in to be tested, if you've had unprotected sex with someone and you go in to be tested, they don't tell you have to come back every 3 months,
right,
for a year. And people don't know that. They go and say, girl, I'm negative. Well, I need you to come back.
Right.
You negative today, but come back in 3 months. So and then if they come back 3 months from then, and they do that for an entire year.
Wow.
So
yeah, it's a lot that, and it's crazy. When you think and you talk to your friends and y'all think y'all know, and I think it's so important to just constantly be in a state of learning, especially in these types of situations. And this is, one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on the show, because it's so important that we are constantly exposed to the most current information.
Absolutely. Always read the message behind the message, because the message that you receive is only the message for today.
Yeah, I like that.
Wait for the message that's coming behind that message, because education is constantly evolving. Information is constantly changing. Education and information is 2 different things. And people have to understand that. You have to know the message behind the message. Wait for it. Don't think you've studied something. You can study something and be a scholar in it, but guess what? It's going to change because information is constantly changing. So when you think you know all that you know about HIV/AIDS, when you think you know all that you know about, who would have thought that the highest population for STD is seniors?
Because of Viagra and everything?
Yes. Who would have thought they have? Yes.
But how they tell us that the older you get, that you're immune to it.
And not just that,
They said it.
Read the statistic stories about the elderly and the seniors.
They really think they're immune to it?
Well, no, most of the time, because they don't go to appointments like we do. So they get, say for instance, they have syphilis or they have gonorrhea, it affects them different. They end up with urinary tract infections. So they're treated for the urinary tract infection, but they're never treated for the STD, and they haven't sex.
Wait, is that because of the rise in these drugs for men, particularly, as far as like the like the Viagras?
That could play a major part, but that's something that's always been.
I would say it's more the sex culture, because now more than ever, it's just promoted from their age
to
on
100
up.
years old.
Like, it's all over everywhere. It's Netflix series of Frankie, and my mom was watching something with the 2 older ladies. They being adventurous and I think it's the sex culture is just promoting so much now on every level.
On every level.
I hope no one knows me listening, but I'm telling you, I would rather use a Waffle House bathroom than nursing home.
Oh my!
What?
Oh my God!
It's like that?
Yeah.
You say something just now.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Hold it till you get outside. I'm just saying.
Lord,
that's
I would like to know more about that.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And it's scary.
Post show on this show.
Yeah. A little extra. All right. Well, we appreciate you coming through,
Miss
Freemy. Now,
now
I don't know if you know this or anything, but it's National Poetry Month. Did you know that? Yeah, you did know that. That's great. Well, we cannot. Together. Yeah, get your snaps together. Yeah, we can't let you get out of here because we know that you're a poet, or we read in the information that you're a poet. So we would love for you to give us a little something before
16 bars.
Just take us out of here.
Little 16.
I have to have a word.
Bar.
You know how I roll, Frank.
Yeah, well, you
I
know
gotta
how-
have a word.
Well, you know how the episode went.
You
You know
gotta
what I
have
mean? And we know
a
you
word.
you're passionate about what you do, obviously, and I know that comes out in your gift. So just bless us.
Intellect, man. Come on, because you know the zeros is on.
Yeah.
Give me a word. Taking too long.
Euphoric.
Definition, please.
Euphoric.
Excitement.
Euphoric.
Means
Yeah,
excitement.
that's
Happy.
fine. I would say passion.
Passion.
Okay.
Happiness.
My bad. I'm
Fire.
sorry.
Similar. They're cousins.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
In the midst of everything I do, I try to stay as balanced as I possibly can, but more than anything, I try to stay humble with the things that God has given me in my hands. The things that I am passionate with and the things that I am passionate to, I will continue to teach you day after day after day. As long as I am able to read and educate myself, you will know exactly what I know because it's good for you. And everything that you do not know, that's okay. We have the ability to teach you. But if you choose not to learn the things that I know and the things that people know that can teach you to do better, than when you fail, it's no one's fault but your own. So in the reality of everything, of being happy and being passionate about the things that I care about, when I leave this world, I pray that my legacy will carry on. That someone will think about something that I said or something that I done or even the face that I was in the community, because you see, I will never give up. I will never stop fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves. And I will always be the voice for those who have been silent and put in the background, from domestic violence all the way to human trafficking, to being sold to prostitution, all the way down to having tubes put in them from sickle cell. I will be the voice that will speak for them. Why? Because God gave me the ability to be able to touch every human being that walks across my path. I'm free me, and thank you all for having me.
Yeah.
Snap your fingers up. That's fingers up.
Gotta put the smoke out on that mic. That on fire.
Retire this mic, Spider.
Fire. Fire.
She did, yeah. She
She
dropped the mic. She did a Kobe Bryant on us. She did
a mic drop.
Obama out. Kobe out.
Sound effects for that one. That was the.
Yeah,
Kobe out.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I thought we was done.
Oh, we are done. No, we done
done
now.
now.
We're wrapping up right now. Thank
Wrap it
you
up,
so
dear.
much. Thank y'all so much. Let everybody know where they can find you online.
You can find me on Facebook at Gloria Free Me Johnson, and you can find me on Instagram at freeme_23.
And we are the Quad. Y'all know we're everywhere. We're on social media, Instagram,
Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, at the Quad _podcast, the Quad podcast on Twitter. Check us out, man. We most definitely gonna make some noise soon. Most definitely.
Yes, indeed.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all be good, and we will catch you next time. This is the Quad.